ensure that these water companies, first of all, understand their budgets. Secondly, that the county governments allocate budgets to them. But these water companies must also be run to be able to produce enough water, which is sustainable to be able to provide for all the citizens of these sub-counties. And on top of that, we also have to deal with the issue of sanitation. You'll find that some companies only deal with the supply of water. But when it comes to the issue of sewage and sanitation, it is left for programs to be funded by the World Bank. We have to be very clear that these are our responsibilities. Today, Mr. Speaker, you will understand that there is a lot of shift on the role that the World Bank and the IMF plays in countries. Burkina Faso, as a country, the ruler of that country has said no to the support of IMF. IMF continue to rate our countries. In fact, today, a friend of mine sent me a small note and said, this is what is important to us, where the IMF has already downgraded Kenya and has portrayed a very dark future for Kenya just because we want to be able to control ourselves. So this trickles down. So our water companies must now be the responsibilities of the county governors, because the county governor is the CEO of that county. And if the CEO does not know how the waters are being run in those counties, it becomes very problematic. We now have a ministry on the blue economy. I think it is important that those water companies and that Ministry for Blue Economy work together to be able to set up huge dams, to be able to ensure that we have reservoirs. We have a big problem when it comes to Nairobi, as an example. Water from Nairobi comes from, I believe, Moranga, or maybe the next county, and it passes through, and there are counties that do not have water, so the water comes here. So we need to now start asking ourselves, how do we ensure that there is sufficient water that can be able to sustain the residents of Nairobi by investing in big water reservoirs? This is a responsibility of the national government. If the national government can just take the third schedule, or the fourth schedule, and look at what their role is, and they put resources there, then we can be able to make a lot of difference. Mr. Speaker, let me reiterate again on the importance of each of the 47 counties establishing their own water companies, and they run them as a resource. They realign their own existing resources. We have a lot of water is washed away. Some of us who are farmers, we tap this water. If you go along most of the riverbanks, you will see people using the water which eventually will drain into the lake and using it for irrigation. We can as well encourage county governments to be able to establish water reservoirs where they can be able to tap into this water. So this is a resource that we can be able to, once we realign just our small existing resources, we can be able to ensure that it supports our population. Mr. Speaker, let me reiterate again on the importance of legislations. When we draft legislations or legislations are proposed in this House, we have to be cognizant of the fact that our Constitution has devolved certain functions. And water and sanitation, fully devolved. These water bodies, or regional water bodies, should actually be working with the national government to be able to develop policies, but not to now start running the distribution of water in the county governments. During the time when we were interrogating these water companies, we also spent a lot of our time talking to the regional bodies. There was a huge conflict between Kajiado County, Makueni County, coming all the way to the river when it comes to the issue of Lolturesh, which is a water source. That water, historically, was piped from Lolturesh, which is down Kajiado South, to come and water flower farms in Kitengela. So the residents of that area, Makueni County, were not getting any water. The residents of Kajiado were not getting any water. So it's important that we look at our own resources. And first of all, before we send that water to serve other people, we make sure that we serve ourselves first. Mr. Speaker, if you and I travel today, the first thing we are told on an airplane is that you need to buckle up first. And even if you have a child, protect yourself first before you do what? You protect that child. So I think we need to be able to take this logic in terms of when it comes to the issue of running our own resources. There is no reason as to why Kajiado County should actually, residents of Kajiado County should stay without water, because that water is going in to support people of the river. There's absolutely no reason as to why the people of Makueni should not be able to benefit from the Mzima Springs, because all that water is going downstream to be able to support Mombasa County. I think we can be able to share these resources. We don't give out all the resources. In fact, even in the Bible says that the poor man is the one who gives out all his wealth and is left begging. I'm not a preacher, but I remember that. And it applies clearly on how we run our resources. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to conclude by stating the following. One, each one of us here must now start taking our job very seriously when it comes to the issue of managing our resources. If you take some time and you read the Auditor General report, you'll be shocked. There's a lot of mismanagement of the little resources that we have in the country. A lot of mismanagement. Whatever happens at the county headquarters also happens in those small companies that are open to run our resources. We must also now bite the bullet, Mr. Speaker. Each of our 47 county delegations here must engage county governors to be able to re-examine and carry out an audit of our water infrastructure. Because there's no point of us buying a lot of water from nearby counties, and then all that water is lost because of leakages, dilapidated infrastructure, which some of them actually end up being carcinogenic. So it's important that we'd rather do, even if we are to get any grants from the national government, those grants are utilized properly. There's so much that people can eat. But really, if you want to jeopardize even the supply of your water because you want to get a tender and line your own pocket, we just need to rethink how we want to live our life. These boards, Mr. Speaker, must now also, we must change the law to ensure that the people who serve on these boards have got experience on managing water companies. There's no point of rewarding our friends. We need to now start introducing the concept of meritocracy. Have people who understand the importance of this resource. If it's taken care of, how well it's going to be able to support this current generation and future generation. So the boards, we must make sure that we use a competitive process, appoint people who have got a background in water and sanitation so that they can be able to make infrastructure that will be able to outlive them. Financial management, Mr. Speaker. It is imperative that the CCM in charge of finance of each of the 47 counties, CCM in charge of water, who is now, and the CEOs in charge of water, who is the accounting officer, their role must be very clear when it comes to managing these semi-autonomous companies. It is not the board which will have all the responsibilities. I think the CEO of finance should be tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that they go through the accounts of each of these counties, water bodies, so that when those counties appear before an oversight body, even the governors will be able to be in the know. Most governors have got no clue on what is happening. In conclusion, I hope that when it comes to passing this legislation, we can all be very selfish and protect devolution. Let the national government handle policy work, but when it comes to the issue of implementation of the legislation, that should be the role of county government. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to second.
Now, honorable senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the reports of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit reports for the year ended 30th June 2019, 30th June 2020, and 30th June 2021 of the following water service providers. 1. Amatsi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. Gusii Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisii / Nyamira Counties. Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kwale County, and Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited in Nyeri County. And the audit report of the Wajir Water and Sewerage Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2021, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 23rd of November 2023. Now, honorable senators, this motion is open for debate, and I will call upon the members who have requested to speak to this particular motion. I'll start with Senator Danson Buya Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to make my contribution on the audit reports of the various counties that have been mentioned there, including Amatsi Water, Bomet Water, Gusii Water, Kisumu, Kwale, and Nyeri Water and Sanitation Companies. Mr. Speaker, before I make my contribution, I wish to join other leaders in extending my best wishes to the students of Tana River County who are sitting their exams, and for the rest of Kenya, wishing them well and wishing them the very best. We all pass through there, so just take heart and do the best you can, and God will be with you. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I wanted to acknowledge the industry hard work that has been put by the chair of this committee. Mr. Speaker, they have done a tremendous job as a team, and I have appeared before them when Tana River was appearing, and I know that we have a very capable chairman, Ososi, Vice Chairman Professor Ojienda, and the rest of the team. We thank you because you have made this Senate proud. Mr. Speaker, many issues have been raised about the companies that have been mentioned and whose report is before this Senate for consideration. Mr. Speaker, I want to probably pick two issues so that I can focus my attention on those issues. Mr. Speaker, there's a big complaint amongst Kenyan people that there's no water on their taps. And Mr. Speaker, I remember many years ago when the reforms of water were underway. At that time, the Minister for Water was the very Honorable Martha Karua. And she brought this idea to Parliament at that time, that we need to segregate these companies. We need to create water companies. We need to create water bodies that are going to be able to manage water in various levels. Some of them were at regional, and some of them were national. Obviously, from those days to date, a lot of changes have taken place, Mr. Speaker. But the principle remains the same, that if this water is managed at a lower level, and in this case, at the county level, then we should be able to have people who have a feeling for the people, who are directly connected, who will not steal the money for water, mismanage the resources for water, so that the county can have water flowing in the taps. Mr. Speaker, this has been a challenge everywhere. And we have been told, Mr. Speaker, that one of the problems is that, and when we speak to the management, like the one in Tana River, they tell you we still depend on the old infrastructure. And Mr. Speaker, the infrastructure that has been there is the one that was built by the county governments, not county government, county councils, Mr. Speaker. And county councils have been gone for more than 10 years. But still these water companies depend on that infrastructure. And Mr. Speaker, we therefore have this challenge of non-revenue water. Non-revenue water has been told by our able chairman when moving, is that water which nobody can account for. It is there, it has been utilized, but nobody can account for it. So, Mr. Speaker, we have also been told that these companies are 100% owned by the county governments, which effectively means, Mr. Speaker, that for the infrastructure to be upgraded, for the infrastructure to be where we want it to be, the new investment must be put into the infrastructure of water. Mr. Speaker, it's not enough for us to just blame the management of these water companies. We must start thinking of solutions. Mr. Speaker, for new money to be put in these water bodies, then it means, Mr. Speaker, we must start thinking of a way of ring-fencing some money which comes from the Senate to go down to the governors, and they be told that this money is for water, and you cannot touch this money. Mr. Speaker, if we could develop that kind of legislation, that is one way forward, and we must start thinking around that issue. Because it appears that if that is not done, like one of our senators here has said, it's the same money, the money goes to the county revenue fund, and the same county revenue fund is used to pay for trips by governors, officials of the counties, and so on. And the money doesn't reach for development of water. Even where they have collected something, you find that that money doesn't go there. Mr. Speaker, we had the same problems with dispensaries and health centers. And you remember, Mr. Speaker, when we were passing the laws that involved the universal healthcare laws, we said that some money needs to be left at the dispensary level, at the health center level, so that if a fence has broken down, the local committee there is able to deal with that matter. If it is a car that has a puncture, the local committee is able to withdraw money from the revenues they are developing, they are collecting there, and do something about it. Mr. Speaker, what is so difficult about us also creating some serious thinking following that model around ring fencing money for water, so that money we vote here can go down there, yes, to the governors, who are the people who are supposed to, by law, arrange the budgets. But in between, some money be ring-fenced for water, so that infrastructure of water can grow. Because no matter what we say, Mr. Speaker, no matter what we do, if the infrastructure of water that we want to use in 2024 is the same infrastructure in Tana River County, for example, that was set up in 1960s by the Tana River County Council, it will never work, Mr. Speaker. We must start thinking as a Senate of a way of pushing money so that infrastructure can be upgraded. Mr. Speaker, there's another thought also that we need to think, because this is a house of ideas. Mr. Speaker, 100%, we have been told, is owned by, the shares are owned by the county governments. So in Tana River County, Tawasco is owned 100% by the county government of Tana River. And Mr. Speaker, the county government of Tana River will tell you we don't have money to invest for infrastructure. Money is being delayed from coming from the national government. Our equitable share is little. Tana River government will tell you we do not have sufficient funds to do fresh investments. Then, Mr. Speaker, why can't we start focusing on finding a way within the law to unlock that 100% shareholding? Why can't we think of privatizing part of those shares so that those who are interested in investing in water can come in and take over management? They can buy in 30% shares within the companies. They can buy in 40%. They'll be present in the management and in the boards of our county boards for water. So that, Mr. Speaker, a person who even may be benevolent, if you've made your money, maybe you made your money abroad, or you made your money in legal practice, or you made your money in investment elsewhere, or whatever you do, and then you wish to purchase shares within the water companies of your county, and you become a shareholder because you want to do something for your county. Mr. Speaker, if you have reached that level where 100 million shillings is not an issue with you, 500 million is not an issue, and you want to retire, and you feel like you want to do something special, Mr. Speaker, it is possible. We must find a way in which we can create law that allows even benevolent investors to put in money within our water companies. So that, Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't be, I pity some of our managers in these water companies. They'll come before Chairman Ososi and tell them we are angling for World Bank to give us this money. We are angling for, I don't know what other grants to get, so we need to meet this and this and this and this and this and this requirement. When you look at it, the money they are angling for is 50 million, is 100 million. you know, Mr. Speaker, and they come to Nairobi, they tell you, help us achieve this and the other, and it is money that many Kenyans here can raise if the law allowed them. And then we have this attitude that it's only Muzungu money that will be able to save us. So people keep on talking about monies from out, monies from out, monies from out. In the meantime, there's a lot of money here within this country, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Somalia, which, if properly structured, can be put into these water companies and we'll be able to improve infrastructure. And our people will be happy to pay those reasonable bills if they're having the service, Mr. Speaker. Because this is the problem. Nobody wants to pay water bills. Why? Why? Because there is no water that flows through your tap. And the next time the water flows through your tap, they bring you a bill for all the months that the water never flowed through your tap. We had an experience, Mr. Speaker, in Tana River County. When the head of state was visiting, suddenly water started flowing in the taps. Head of state visits, Mr. Speaker. Water started flowing in the taps. You know, it shouldn't be that way, Mr. Speaker. And if the problem is investment, then we should create opportunities for people to invest in infrastructure so that these monies can be used by management to create opportunities for our water bodies to function. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I would like to also say that water bodies, even with the difficulties that they're experiencing, audit is showing us in this Senate that there are some water companies that are just doing the wrong things, you know, just wrong things. And some of these are not difficult to comply with. The law, the National Cohesion Integration Act, Mr. Speaker, has said that if within that county there are some majority tribes, you make sure that 30% should not be occupied by one tribe alone, so that the other people can have opportunities, Mr. Speaker, to be employed. Now, we have many water companies, Mr. Speaker, that have totally ignored these rules. And in this report, Gusii Water Company has been mentioned specifically. But Gusii Water Company is not alone when they are told that 80% of your employees are in contradiction of the National Cohesion Integrity Commission Act. But it's not alone. There are many companies, Mr. Speaker, including my own Tana River Tawasco, Tana Water and Sanitation Company, Mr. Speaker, where they have totally ignored the provisions of the National Commission Integration Act, where you find the people who are employed are from one side. You don't find a proper mix. Small tribes that exist within what are the consequences of flagrant disobedience of the law? Mr. Speaker, we make recommendations in this Senate, but there are no consequences. People come, they tell us they will improve, and next year they come, they are the same, and there are no consequences. Mr. Speaker, I am asking that it is time we started thinking about tightening the laws on people who are flagrantly disobeying the law. Here, we have been told that in terms of financial management of these companies, you have many of them which are getting unqualified opinion of the Auditor General. Now, if the Auditor General says that the opinion they are giving in terms of financial management of your monies, the funds that have been made to you, is unqualified opinion, Mr. Speaker, and then no consequence is visited upon them. Instead, in the next meeting, they bring some documents, like the chairman said, they generate documents so that they tell you, oh, we were only told, our opinion was only bad because we didn't have this and this other document. Now we have them. I like the stand Mr. Chairman has taken, that the documentations that have not been assessed by the Auditor General should not be accepted by the Senate committee. People should go through the processes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there should be consequences, because after we make recommendations, there should be consequences. I always feel very let down by some of these guys. EACC sits in the Public Accounts Committee. They have a permanent representative there. And they are told there's this a problem, this a query. EACC moves there, they sit there, collect allowances, and they do nothing, Mr. Speaker. And there are other bodies there. You find they come and sit, they listen, and recommendations are made. Instead of action being taken in real time, the reason that you are put in that committee so that you can take action in real time, nothing happens. Mr. Speaker, we want to see action on these audit reports. Consequences must visit those who are flagrantly breaching the National Cohesion Act. Water companies that are not following the law, Mr. Speaker, they should feel the pressure of the Senate. Mr. Speaker, a few people must be arrested for breaching the Public Financial Management Act. Mr. Speaker, if this happens, then we shall have some discipline. Aside from the investment, we need enforcement of the law, Mr. Speaker, so that we can bring some form of discipline and direction from the Senate on these water companies. We've been told water is life. And an appeal has been made here that senators, we must take interest in the management of water companies in our places where we come from. And I accept that. That's a good appeal. But we also need from the National Committee enforcement. If somebody is not doing his work, surely let a few people take personal responsibility. If this starts happening, Mr. Speaker, we shall be able to create proper management of our water companies, and our people shall receive water, the water they have been using. They will be billed for water that they have been using. Mr. Speaker, why can't we create water tokens so that, just like electricity, I buy my token and I know that after I've used 1,000 or 500, I need to replace, instead of waiting at the end of month, alafu naletewa bili ya hewa. Mr. Speaker, time has come, we use technology to make sure our water companies are also functional. So we should not only invest in the infrastructure, but also in technology, so that people can pay for services that have actually been rendered. We are doing better in electricity, but we can also do good in water sector. And this means we must start focusing there as a Senate.
Senator
Name again?
Geoffrey Manari.
Joseph, you should have shared this also.
Senator Sifuna Edwin.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to begin by commending the County Public Investments Committee that is ably chaired by the Senator for Vihiga, the Honorable Osotsi. Honorable Speaker, I have had occasion to be present in some of his meetings, especially when the management of the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company was appearing before this committee. And I can assure you that I saw the sort of commitment by members of the committee, and especially the chair, to make sure that we right the wrongs in many of these water companies. Honorable Speaker, as you can see from the report, the chairperson and the committee have demonstrated in-depth knowledge and understanding of the issues that are facing these water companies, and they are making recommendations that will help in trying to resolve some of the issues that have bedeviled these particular water companies. I'm also very proud, Honorable Chair, that this committee has done almost 80 of those water company reports so far, and that we are at 100% in terms of addressing the question of ownership, which was not the situation that was obtaining prior to Senator Osotsi being the chair of this committee. So therefore, Honorable Chair, let me take this opportunity to thank the chair, the Senator for Vihiga, who's also my deputy party leader. These are some of the things that Kenyans have come to expect from the very high quality leadership from the Orange Democratic Movement. And we are setting the pace for other committees, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, allow me to address two things that have been raised by the committee, and they have had the chair make various references to the situation with water in Nairobi County. The first one, Honorable Chair, is the question of non-revenue water. And I know that from the discussions before that committee, Nairobi County, or the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, is one of those companies with the highest non-revenue water. And various reasons have been cited. Honorable Speaker, in very simple terms, non-revenue water is revenue that somehow leaves the company, but is not billed, and the county does not receive money, or the company does not receive money, for that water. And one of the issues that have been cited is dilapidated infrastructure. Truth of the matter is, here in Nairobi, the water and sewerage infrastructure that we are operating on has been stretched beyond its capacity. And as the chair said, we are still relying on the original water and sanitation infrastructure when the city was actually built by the Mzungu. Honorable Chair, one of the things that I have never understood is, if you look at our laws, there is a law that is called the Urban Areas and Cities Act. This law, under sections 5 and 6, provides for a framework of cooperation between the national government and the county government, and especially the city county of Nairobi, recognizing the unique position of Nairobi City County amongst the 47 counties. This uniqueness arises from many things, including the fact that Nairobi City County is the capital of the Republic. It hosts the diplomatic headquarters of many countries. It also is a seat of government. Many national government institutions are actually situated here in Nairobi. Honorable Speaker, under that act, the expectation was that in the realization of the uniqueness of Nairobi, the national government would support development of heavy infrastructure or critical infrastructure like the water and sanitation infrastructure. But this has never happened. If you speak to the management of the water company and the county government of Nairobi in general, Honorable Speaker, the amount of capital outlay that is required to bring the sanitation and water infrastructure up to speed, Honorable Speaker, it is something that would require over 5 years allocation under the equitable revenue share for us to be able to do that infrastructure. As we speak, Honorable Speaker, the existing sewage network, for instance, covers only 37 or 30% of the total square area of Nairobi County. And Honorable Speaker, as you know, these has also, the past few years, I've seen a lot of rapid development. Rapid development in terms of housing. Very many new buildings are coming up, going up to 25 floors, hosting thousands of tenants, but it has not been accompanied by the commensurate infrastructure upgrade that is required. And this is why many of our water and sanitation infrastructure is creaking. So, Honorable Speaker, I continue to call on the national government to honor its responsibilities under the Urban Areas and Cities Act to support Nairobi's development of certain critical infrastructure, including our water infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to meet the needs of the people of Nairobi. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the committee has highlighted the specter of illegal connections and what the chair has called outright corruption. There are stories we hear in this city, Honorable Speaker. Very serious allegations are made against the management of Nairobi Water City Company, the people who work there, that, Honorable Speaker, even though they told us that there is this program of equitable distribution of water across the city, that there are unscrupulous people within the company who are even themselves merchants of water, people who own water bowsers, who are aware of the distribution schedule, who will make sure that, Honorable Speaker, the running joke is that some of them have mjengos going on, and they tell their contractors, just wacha nifunge Nairobi West, and then I'll come and see you at the hardware, Honorable Speaker. Knowing that you are shutting water supply to Nairobi West, then your bowsers are available for the people of Nairobi West to buy water from you. So these stories, Honorable Speaker, unfortunately for us, we rely on other institutions, and we have complained even at the Committee of Public Accounts that unfortunately for us as a House, our role ends somewhere. That once we bring up these matters before these committees, we depend on other institutions of government, including the EACC, to be able to follow up and to be able to bring some of these matters before the courts so that we can stop these malpractices. I remember, Honorable Speaker, and I don't know if Chair of this committee can recall, that when the Nairobi Water team was before his committee, there was a discussion about the discharge point for sewage from these exhausters in Nairobi. And the management there could not tell you on average or in a day what are the identities of the trucks that have delivered or have discharged this morning. They cannot tell you the number of times a vehicle specific registration number has appeared there. And it becomes very difficult for you to manage revenue if you're operating like that. So, Honorable Chair, if we do not focus on this question of illegal connections and corruption within our water companies, we are doing nothing. And by the way, I used to think that cartels, for instance, in water, are shadowy figures who you cannot point out. Honorable Speaker, the people doing illegal connections are known within our communities. It is the inefficiency of the water companies that supports the existence of these cartels. Because the people there, especially in the informal settlements, have come to realize that the suppliers down there who have made illegal connections somehow provide a more reliable service than the water company itself. So if these issues are not addressed, Honorable Speaker, then we will not be doing anything. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, I want to just comment on something that the Speaker, the Chairman said, that the recommendations are arrived at by consensus. And in replying, I would also want him to advise if this consensus is just amongst the members of the committee, or if in fact the management of the water companies themselves share in some of these recommendations, because it is important that you get the buy-in of these stakeholders, especially on conflict areas such as the Kisii and Nyamira situation that you have referred to, the Bungoma and Trans Nzoia one. If there is no commitment from those stakeholders to resolve those problems, there's not going to be resolution of those problems. So therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the committee. I thank them for the support that they are rendering to all these entities for them to be able to improve. At the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, what the people of our counties expect is reliable water supply. If you look at the statistics, the people who in this city have access to water 24 hours are less than 40%. The rest of us, Honorable Speaker, we have to play pata potea with our water supply. And this is a situation that is not acceptable. And we have to call out the management of these companies. We have to call out the management of our counties to ensure that this is done. Nairobians have waited for so long, Honorable Speaker, because, you know, there's a project that we were following very closely on the Northern Collector Tunnel that was supposed to add an additional 170,000 cubic meters of water to our daily supply, which would have helped because we are running a deficit of over 200,000 cubic meters of water every day. We need to be updated on the situation with the Northern Collector Tunnel and all the other water projects that the people of Nairobi have been waiting on, so that we are able to assuage the situation and as well in the other counties. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I thank you and I support the position that has been taken by the committee.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna. I was really hoping that when you were talking about the honeysuckers, and you have informed the House that they discharge their sewer in rivers, and we have that problem. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity to make a few comments on the report of my sister committee of County Public and Investment. I think in the last session, Mr. Speaker, it was a joint committee, and I'm happy during that session, Mr. Speaker, we were not able to look at these issues. And I know they are very busy because they have to look back for almost, Mr. Speaker, from 2013. Because during the public investments, we could not look at public accounts in the last session. But I'm happy in the wisdom of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, we have seen the need to have a public investment committee. And I'm happy to, this report of 2019-2020, I'm happy with the pace at which the Public Investment Committee of this House is doing its work, led by the Deputy Party Leader of ODM, my brother and friend and neighbor, Senator Otsotsi, for the good job that he's doing, Mr. Speaker. And for us who interacted with Senator Otsotsi in the last session, he was a fiery legislator who almost Angamiza one of our principles, but I'm happy nowadays he's more calm. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Amatsi Water Service Company Limited in Vihiga, Bomet Water Company Limited in Bomet County, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company Limited in Kisii, Nyamira counties, and this is where we have problems even in waterworks, Mr. Speaker. Remember, for example, Nandi, there are many shared, Mr. Speaker. Even in Nandi, we have a Loret Water and Sanitation Company that covers both Wazingishu County and Nandi and part of Lesos in Nandi's constituency. We have Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company in Kisumu County, Kwale Sewerage and Sanitation, Nyeri and Sanitation Company, Mr. Speaker, where Wamunyoro village is. Mr. Speaker, on many aspects, I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker, on many issues. I agree that most of our, Mr. Speaker, most of our companies are on the red, water companies, even Kapsabet Water and Sanitation Company, Mr. Speaker. For example, Water and Sanitation Company is under in Nandi County, where we still depend on generators and electricity to pump water into Kapsabet town, Mr. Speaker, and its environs. We had expected that the government would expedite the construction of a Keben Dam, Mr. Speaker, which was upscaled to 24 billion Kenya shillings, Mr. Speaker. I know there are a number of dams across the country, like Tuaga Dam. There is also Karmenu Dam, Mr. Speaker. There is Posta Dam in Bomet. There is also Itare Dam in Nakuru. Chemasusu Dam was complete. We had one, the Aror and Kimwarer dams in Elgeyo Marakwet County, Mr. Speaker. We have two rivers in Wazingishu. Mr. Speaker, we have the one of Sondu Dam that was supposed to cost 40 billion. That is between Kericho, Nandi, and Kisumu counties, among other dams across the country, Mr. Speaker. So it is very important that water is life. Water should be accessible, Mr. Speaker. If a society where it will reach a point that water is more expensive than soda or any other beverage, Mr. Speaker, as a society, we have collapsed. I know in northern part of the country, we still have challenges of access to water. And we remember we were being told that there is aquifer waters, especially in Turkana and that northern Pearl, where we were being told up to 70 years access to underground water, to especially